Mr. Chair and the members of this honorable body. I am Aris Kawilan. I am the Director for the Bureau of Learning Resources. I was sent to provide you updates on on the procurement of textbooks. So we already have procured grades 1, 4, and 7 textbooks for the first tranche of the Matatag curriculum. And for the second tranche of the Matatag curriculum, which shall be implemented by next school year 2025 to 2026, we are currently conducting an early procurement activity po, Mr. Chair. In fact, today is the opening of bids. We have 31 bidders. So currently in the central office, they are all busy analyzing the technical components of the bids. By tonight, we will know if all the bids have been successfully bid out. Mr. Chair and the members of the Honorable Committee, may we also post you an update that by next year, we are to adopt a policy for pre-selection of textbooks and teachers' manual. So, how is this different from the textbook policy that we have right now? Right now, when we call for textbook procurement, the publishers will just submit their textbooks during the bid opening. But for the next upcoming procurement for grade 6, 9, and 10, uunahin po nating titignan yung quality ng libro bago po natin sila i-procure. That way, we will be saving on time, we will be saving also on resources. So, later po, Mr. Chair, after this meeting, dediretso na po kami sa Central for the opening of bids.
Yes, salamat, Director Aris. Any questions, clarifications? Honorable Castro is recognized.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Nakalagay kasi dito, Mr. Chair, sa ating agenda, yung nabago, yung tungkol sa policy dun sa textbook procurement. So, nabago ba yung policy mula noon? So, may pagbabago po ba dun sa policy?
Yung bagong policy ay i-adapt pa lang po, Mr. Chair and ma'am. So,
Sir Aris, yung tanong kasi, hindi yun yung tanong eh.
Oo,
Yung
nabago.
tanong, may isang policy,
Oo.
which is Deped should procure from local publishers textbooks, di ba? Yun yung batas eh. Tama?
yes, sir.
Okay. Napalitan yon for a while. O hindi naman napalitan. Minodify yon. Ang ginawa ninyo, you would not procure textbooks. Correct? You were producing, kayo nag-produce ng sarili nyo, di ba?
Mr. Chair, I think that was, we are talking about volume 5. The one where separate po yung development of the textbook, then separate po yung printing.
What we are talking about is that there is a law for the development of the textbook industry, publishing industry in the Philippines. Is that correct? May ganong batas, di ba?
Yes po, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Ano sabi ng batas na yun?
That Deped shall procure from private publishers po.
Correct. Kailan nag-start na hindi na nagpro-procure ang Deped sa mga private Filipino publishers?
I think sa ngayon, hanggang ngayon po, Mr. Chair, we are still procuring our textbooks from our private publishers.
Ano ang ibang, other than textbooks, what do you distribute to your learners?
We have supplementary learning resources and reading
Ang
materials.
supplementary learning resources is not considered a textbook.
No po, Mr. Chair.
No. That is why yun, kayo nagpro-produce nun. And you print it?
Mr. Chair, we also buy it from private publishers. Meron din po kaming create ng mga storybooks din po. So,
Everything is procured via Philippine publishing companies.
for the supplementary learning resources, Mr. Chair, may kinukuha po kami from
What about
private
yung learning materials lang?
Ganun din po, Mr. Chair.
So why is hindi ba nagka-issue na hindi nga nagpro-procure from the Philippine? Did we get the wrong information?
Probably that would be yung self-learning modules po, Mr. Chair.
Self-learning modules.
Yes.
Oh, kailan nag-umpisa yung self-learning modules?
Yung self-learning modules, Mr. Chair, nag-umpisa siya noong pandemic po, noong 2020. So during the initial phase of the pandemic po, Deped started to develop self-learning modules. And then
Before that, wala. There was
Wala.
no instance 2014, 2015 that Deped created its own books or materials, learning materials. Walang ganon.
I think in 2012 po, Mr. Chair,
Mhm.
Deped also created learners materials po, yung LMs po natin.
Yes.
Yes, that is yun po yung ginamit kasi wala pang textbook nung time na yun.
Yes. So, ang sinasabi mo lang in response to kay Congresswoman Castro, currently, wala na kayong create na sarili niyong materials. Everything is procured through a public bidding with Filipino publishers.
Yung textbooks po, Mr. Chair.
Kasi sinabi mo yung textbooks. Ano yung hindi niyo procure?
Mr. Chair, yung mga learning exemplars po natin and worksheets,
Learning exemplars and worksheets.
yes,
Worksheets are not procured.
they are also procured for printing and delivery lang po, Mr. Chair. But it's Deped that developed the
That
content.
develops it. Yun. So ano to? Learning.
Lesson exemplars and
Yes.
worksheets.
How big yung learning exemplars compared to the textbooks?
Mr. Chair, these are just thin sheets. Thin sheets lang siya per week na gagamitin.
Yes.
And these are what our teachers use habang hinihintay po yung mga textbooks na dumating.
Sige. So that's good to know. Yes, Honorable Castro?
Yes, thank you for the clarification. By the way, who is the USEC in charge for the procurement? Sino yung USEC? So, your office is under what USEC?
My office po is under USEC G Nagono.
USEC Ginagono. Okay, kasi 'di ba Mr. Chair, meron kasing naging controversial noon tungkol doon siya na National Development Board. So, ano yung role nung NDB dito sa procurement ng mga textbooks? Kasi puro lahat nanggagaling sa mga private publishing, 'di ba, yung ating mga textbooks. Sa ngayon yung sa Matatag, no? So ano yung role ng NDB dito sa whether it is development or procurement, etc.
Honorable Castro, with your permission, we have a representative. Yes.
Mr. Chair, may I-
Please state your name and position in that entity.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Congressman.
To the mic, sorry.
Sorry. I'm Kevin Ansel D, OIC Division Chief po of the Policy and Industry Research Division of the National Book Development Board. If I may, Congressman Castro, sections 1011 of Republic Act 8047 identify ano po yung relationship ni NBDB and ni Deped. And if I may, the DEC shall consult with the board, the National Book Development Board, in prescribing the guidelines, rules, and regulations in preparing the minimum learning competencies and or prototypes and other specifications for books required by public elementary and secondary schools. And the DEX, now Deped, shall confine itself to preparing minimum learning competencies and other specifications for books and or manuscripts, testing, evaluating, selecting, and approving the manuscripts, providing assistance in the distribution of textbooks, and promulgating with participation and assistance of the board of the National Book Development Board rules and regulations for the private book publishers in the call, testing, evaluation, selection of public school textbooks. So, bali consultative po ang role namin. We collaborate on the textbook procurement policy, and this is exactly what happened po in the recent policy and in the upcoming refinement po niya.
So good to hear that, Mr. Chair, kasi nung last time kasi parang yung DepEd lang yung nagpo-procure without parang less or without consultation with the NDB. So yung NDB, Mr. Chair, so active kayo ngayon sa mga procurement, policy, etc., including sabi nyo prototypes. So ang ibig sabihin, yung mga ginagamit na learning materials, were you consulted? Yung mga ginagawa ng DepEd na mga Mr. Chair, nakita ko kasi yan sa Pampanga nung nagpunta ako 2 weeks ago. Ang dami nung mga learning materials na galing daw ng DepEd. So, kasama din ba kayo, Mr. Chair, yung NDB doon sa development and procurement?
Mr. Chair, at the moment, the locus of our collaboration with Deped is as regards two things. It's first and foremost textbook procurement, the textbook procurement policies, the processes, and second is for supplementary learning resources. There has been some discussion on whether certain things count as textbooks or not, and therefore would they fall under the purview of NBDB and therefore consultation. But these are still ongoing discussions. I believe for learning materials, because they're not, depending on the type of learning materials, Mr. Chair, if they're not books, then that would not fall under within our purview naman. So, okay.
Thank you po. Sa Deped ba? Sa Deped, yung po ba ay galing din sa atin? Doon sa Deped, yung yun nga, yung mga learning materials. Hindi po textbooks yun, ano? Kasi nakita ko mga ganun lang kaninipis yun. Tinatanong ko to, Mr. Chair, dahil, di ba, in the past, during the pandemic, there are errors pointed out doon sa mga modules and other learning materials. So, I'm asking kung kayo rin sana, di ba, na-check nyo. Kung ang Deped, sila na yung gumawa, sila pa yung nag-produce, sila pa yung paano yun? Paano natin ma-check yung laman kung merong error or whatever doon sa content? Paano na-check ng Deped po yun?
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Director.
Mr. Chair, we have an error watch team composed of curriculum experts. So if there are reported errors in the materials, titignan po nila yan, and then we will be issuing appropriate addendum, correction, as well as notes to teachers po.
Well, paano natin mangyari yung ganon? Kaya nga sinasabi ko, kung merong participation dyan, kung meron tayong third party, or katulad niyan, yung NDB, na mag-check, hindi lang dun sa textbooks, yung mga laman din ng mga materials. Kasi, ito yung highly circulated na sa ating mga estudyante now. So, sana meron din gano'n na ma-check din ng NDB or ng third party yung mga laman din ng mga learning materials na dinidistribute, not only the textbooks. Do you have that mechanisms po?
Mr. Chair, as to the other learning resources aside from the textbooks, we have our quality assurance process then. So primarily our quality assurance teams are primarily composed of Deped personnel. But we are also engaging other stakeholders ngayon para meron nga pong third eye na makakita, hindi lang puro Deped ang titingin, ma'am. So we will continue engaging our stakeholders po, ma'am, so that we will
third eye na yon. Ano yung third? Yun nga yung tinatanong ko.
Yes, ma'am.
Ano yung entity na yon na tumitingin? So, kasi kung tayo titingin dun sa gawa natin, so okay lang yun. Pero dapat merong other party rin na tumitingin para maiwasan natin yung misconception, error doon sa mga learning materials na dinidistribute natin sa ngayon.
Yes. Ma'am, there are certain academicians po na sumasali sa quality assurance natin. And there are certain groups din po na nagvo-volunteer na baka pwede namin matignan yung material. So pinapatignan na rin po namin para at least bago siya ma-widely circulate, okay na po siya, ma'am.
Apart from the Deped?
Yes po, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so do you have comment on that, NDB? So,
Mr. Chair, on our part, with regards to textbooks, I think one of the issues.
No, with regards to the
national,
with regards to the learning materials.
For learning materials, Mr. Chair, because our focus is mainly on providing ensuring that our textbook procurement is competitive and ensures quality. I guess the most that we can say for that is there is some discussion on which ones are considered textbooks, which ones aren't. Because under the current law, because the law is a bit old, the definition of a book is anything above 48 pages. Although may mga bagong formats na tayo ngayon. So on our end, that's where I guess sometimes there's confusion. There might be some need to amend that and to clarify that. Other than that, because it's not within our purview, we have no further.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can I continue? Or you're okay? So, sabi kanina Mr. Chair ni Director, meron lang yung update sa textbook procurement. There are already 31 bidders na for all Matatag textbooks. Tama.
Mr. Chair, that is for grades 2, 5, and 8 po.
2, 5, and 8. So, grades 2, 5, and 8. Pero, Mr. Chair, kasi ngayon parang widely implemented na itong Matatag. Tama ba?
1, 4, and 7 pa lang po, Mr. Chair. So, by
So,
next school
1,
year
4, 7. Kasi kahit na yung time allotments, parang in-implement na yan sa iba. Sa ibang mga year level. Hindi pa rin.
I think there are, Mr. Chair, I think there are other issuances that were already
Okay.
provided.
How about 1, 4, 7? Kompleto na po ba yung textbooks natin sa grades 1, 4, and 7?
Mr. Chair, for grades 1, 4, and 7, we are only missing 2 titles. Kasi nag-failed bidding siya during our previous waves.
Ano po?
And that is
Sorry? 2
2 titles.
2 titles.
2
Okay.
titles pa lang po ang wala, Mr. Chair. That is Music and Arts 4 and Music and Arts 7. So I think that was last week, nag-opening of bids na rin po kami sa review.
Okay. So, yung 31 bidders for grades 2, 5, and 8. So, how about the budget requirements? Ano po ba yung budget natin dito?
Mr. Chair, during the budget deliberation and hearings, the Department of Education requested or included in its wish list the amount of 500 million para sana po sa grade 3 textbooks. Kasi yung grade 3 po natin, hindi siya originally included doon sa NEP. But we made initial internal allocation and reallocation. So we came up with 1.1 billion. So we just need another 500 million po para mapunan po yun.
No, di ba pinag-uusapan natin, Mr. Chair, yung sa 258? So,
Yes.
meron kayong breakdown ng mga budget natin. Di ba, meron kayo sa 147, tsaka doon sa grades 258. So, ang sinasabi nyo, Mr. Chair, 1 billion ang budget natin dito. And you need another 500 million.
Sorry po, Mr.
Kasi
Chair.
parang grade 3. Sinasabi nyo po grade 3, hindi pa naman kasali rito yun.
Mr. Chair, our budget for grade 2 is 1.1 billion. For grade textbooks for grade 5 is 2.2 billion. For grade 8 is 1.8 billion.
Okay, that's clear.
Opo.
So, with this budget, can we are we assured na 1:1 na ba yan? Or ano ba ang ratio niyan?
It is 1:1.
Okay, so 1:1 to our students. Okay. Well, kailan matatapos yung budget? Kailan matatapos yung bidding?
We foresee na matapos po yung bidding within this December. Subject to award na lang po after the approval of the GAA by January.
Okay. Last question, Mr. Chair. Data on the importation of paper for the last 10 to 15 years. Ano ibig sabihin nito? Yung mga paper in-import pa natin? NDB?
If I may, Mr. Chair, I believe the data was supposed to come from Department of Finance as stated in the agenda, but the National Book Development Board does have a program is by law that allows for tax and duty-free importation of paper upon application. There are certain requirements. A lot of these actually do go to Deped-related procurement. So we can furnish the ComSec with that data.
No, Mr. Chair, ang tanong ko lang dito, yung mga paper ba, kailangan nating i-import? Are we not producing enough paper for our books?
Mr. Chair, I believe that given the volume and usually the price that we're looking at, hindi na po na kaya. I believe there were some efforts to rehabilitate the paper industry here, but locally hindi po nakakaya.
So what's the % of local and imported papers
that
we are using for the textbooks?
That I cannot provide at the moment, Madam Chair.
Who can provide it, Mr. Chair?
I believe BOC or DOF.
Okay. So BOC, Mr. Chair daw, yung hindi kasi nila maasagot yung ratio nung imported tsaka so paano yan? Hindi, naano lang ako, Mr. Chair, nalulungkot lang ako. Kasi yung paper na dapat ay tayo na yung nagpo-produce, di ba? Na kaya natin siguro produce. Pero ganito yung sitwasyon. So later on, Mr. Chair, kung nandiyan yung BOC tsaka DOF, matanong natin. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Honorable Plato?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Gusto ko liwanagin kanina yung binabanggit mo na December. Ang December pa ang bidding. Ano ba yun? Yung sa procurement. Kasi sa new procurement law, ang alam ko, pag nasanip na, pwede na i-advertise pa bid short of award.
Hector Aris?
Who is in charge of this procurement? Who's the USEC here?
USEC Aris in charge under USEC Gina Goon.
Gina.
Opo.
USEC Gina.
Aris can respond.
Yeah, Director Aris.
Yes po, Mr. Chair. This procurement right now is early procurement activity po. Yes po. Short of award din po, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Okay. Anong ibig sabihin early procurement?
Yes. Mr. Chair, I think this is in relation to what you said a while ago po na short of award. So, na-approve po yung NEP. So, pino-procure po namin ngayon short of award. Para in time po by probably or hopefully by June 2025, nandyan na po yung mga libro in time for the opening of classes.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, briefly na lang, Sir Ms. Kevin D, what is the law about, what is the purpose of the law that you are implementing with respect to Filipino publishers? Ano ba ang objective ng batas?
The objective, Mr. Chair, is to develop the book development industry in the Philippines. As regards textbook publishing kasi
So publishing, book
Yes.
development, and
book
publishing.
development. Yes po.
So has the law, has implementation met the objectives of the law?
Mr. Chair, there has been some market improvement. For most kasi in most countries, a lot of the revenue really is in educational publishing. So a lot of the revenue was really from the state actually. So malaking step forward po yung textbook procurement, updated textbook procurement
Yeah,
policy.
when was the law passed?
1995 po.
1995 or 2024. So that means the publication house in the Philippines should be flourishing already by now.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Are they flourishing now or no?
Not yet, Mr. Chair.
Why?
Mr. Chair, there are several programs that we have to implement. I think the NBDB is also working on improving, for example, local procurement of books and also increasing production. I will say that
Is that the key ingredient or is it what Honorable Castro mentioned earlier? It is the paper that dictates
paper is
really
also
the price.
very important, Mr. Chair.
That is why. So if paper is the one that is important, why are you not pushing for the paper industry in the Philippines?
I agree, Mr. Chair. I think that's one of the things.
Yes,
that
we all agree, but you're in charge of implementing that law. So what are you doing about it?
One of the things that we've been working on is really yung pag-update ng roadmap namin.
Roadmap.
For the book, ng supply chain analysis ng Philippines.
Where are you in this roadmap? 29 years later.
Dito, Mr. Chair, we're looking at updating nga po kasi yung previous national book policy namin 1999 pa po na promulgate. So the first thing we have to do is update that. It will be noted that hindi po actually nabanggit
98?
doon sa policy, which yes, this was under an executive order po. Doon po na promulgate yung national book as mandated by law. The NBDB is supposed to forward and adopt a national book policy and a corresponding national book development plan.
The national development plan would entail the supply chain.
Yes po.
Okay.
Because we
Under
have
the supply chain, what is the most expensive
paper, raw material.
paper?
Opo.
You told Congresswoman Castro earlier, yung paper, most 80% imported, 90%, or 100%?
I do not have the exact figures, Mr. Chair, right now.
Yes,
So
okay, but
apologies.
more or less, ballpark.
I would say most of the imported paper kasi goes to historically a lot of broadsheets, kaya usually ang nangyayari newsprint din for a time ang ginagamit sa book publishing. Kasi yun yung karamihan na ini-import natin. So
So meaning may local production of paper.
there is, but very minimal. And I believe there was
And
some
what is the reason for that? Is it
there was a
because-
time, if I may, Mr.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. There was a time, I believe, 2010s na tumaas po ang importation ng paper natin. At medyo nag-suffer po ang local paper industry. If I'm not mistaken, I just remember from news reports before.
Yes.
Isa po yun sa mga inaangal ng mga local paper mills natin dati.
So again, OIC Kevin,
Yes po.
could you submit a report to this committee
Yes po.
regarding this supply chain? Because you said that is part of the development plan, the local book development plan. And you also mentioned earlier that the most expensive input is really the paper.
Yes po.
So ang question namin, why are you not pushing for a local industry? Is it because banned ba ang tree cutting? May specific tree ba na ginagamit na hindi natin ginogrow dito? But the point is, sa Deped kasi ang problema, for them, the challenge really, yung sinasabi ni Honorable Castro, which is the quality of the books. But you are telling them that you have to procure the books sa local publishing houses because there is a law to promote them. But that law also says na kailangan mag-flourish yun.
Opo.
Pero sabi mo nga, 29 years na parang hindi nagpa-flourish eh. So saan yung clog?
To be fair, Mr. Chair, there have been some big strides. So in terms of local number of titles being produced, we're now at 10,000, which is still far below our neighbors. But compared to the early days of NBD, the mid-90s, nasa 2,000, 3,000 ISBNs.
Ilan ba
na po
total
tayo.
titles ang kailangan?
In terms of production, Mr. Chair, I think a good target would be looking at, for example, Vietnam. I think they do twice or thrice our amount. Pero tayo before we were at 2,000, 3,000 titles lang. Now we're doing about 10,000 plus ISBNs every year na nire-register ng National Library.
Is that correct for the Deped books?
For Deped books, Mr. Chair, we also just rely with the registration with the ISBN.
Yes po. So the National Library po kasi registers every time there's yan yung parang SKU, yung product code po for books, the ISBN.
Sige.
So that's the data that we're also relying. 10,000.
Siguro we need in a hearing, kailangan natin talaga dito DNR, lahat ng with the paper industry para maliwanag tayo kung saan tayo papunta. Yes, oo. So we will, but please submit to us that supply chain development plan that you have so that we can also take a look at that also and take a review. Sa totoo, that's a major focus for this committee.
Yes.
Because we are telling Deped mag-purchase kayo sa local publishing houses. So yung presyo importante doon. Ano ba ang bakit siya mahal? Baka dahil nga yung import na pati yung ano ba yung Philippine printing, meron tayong ganun, di ba? Office, National Printing. But make sure that they come here in the next meeting so that we can also ask them.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Ma'am Roque, yes.
Mr. Chair.
Ay, Honorable Roque.
Mr. Chair, tanong ko lang po sana kung kasama sa supply ba na naka-count nila ng papel yung mga nare-recycle natin ng mga libro na hindi naman talaga ginagamit na every year. Considering that we have been developing the books, I'm sure the older books have, a potential of recycled products na rin that we can make become another kind of set of books.
That's one of the things we're looking at, Mr. Chair, because it is mandated in our law that we should be encouraging not only recycling, but even using renewable and recyclable materials. Sadly, hindi pa namin yun na tingnan paano how to make it feasible. Admittedly.
Yes. So, Sir OIC Kevin, in the next hearing that we call for this matter, please try to be briefed really on saan yung mga obstacles for you to be able to do it. But please give us a report by next week. So in writing of the strategy that you have.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Kasi kung hindi rin natin ma-develop, yung
Yes,
Oo,
Mr. Chair.
sayang rin eh, di ba?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Kung hindi rin. Before we proceed, may I also acknowledge the presence of the lady from the 1st District of Cebu City, the Honorable Rachel Marguerite P. Delmar. Yes. Yes. Okay. With that, again, concern, hindi lang naman yung quality of the books eh, but kasi you're forcing them to buy, so we need to also know kung ano yung, what the steps you're taking to ensure. With that, any more questions from any member?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Honorable
manifestation.
Castro.
So, Mr. Chair, nakakadismaya no na ganito na naman, imported na naman, tayo nagre-rely ng mga papers natin na ginagamit naman yan pang araw-araw. Ngayon, kung madedevelop natin yung paper industry natin, magkaka-create tayo ng mas maraming trabaho, no? Dito lang. Tapos, mumura ang cost ng mga books natin. Kaya, sana, Mr. Chair, thank you sinasabi nyo kanina, no? I-invite natin yung lahat ng concern dito, like DTI, yung DOF, ano pa ba yung pwede para sa National Printing Office, para doon sa printing, para mas makita natin yung the whole picture noong book development natin program sa Deped. Kasi example lang, Mr. Chair, yung sa Deped, maraming mga schools, kung gumagamit lang din tayo, halimbawa noong, eto example lang doon sa isang committee, sustainable development. Alam ba, sa bamboo, kung nagagamit lang natin itong bamboo na to sa mga chairs natin, di ba, mag-create tayo ng industry. Sa Bukidnon, ganun yung industry nila. Kaya talagang dapat na, high time, Mr. Chair, no, na mag-develop tayo ng ating mga national industry para ma-create natin yung mas matrabaho sa ating bayan. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
That is correct. And sayang kasi, kung nagpro-produce tayo, tapos yung kita, yung mas malaki yung, dahil sa yung cost kasi malaki ating sa paper eh. So we want to find out what's happening. And from the National Printing Office, we should, COMSEC, kailangan sila mag-attend at sabihin nila sa atin, sila ba saan kumukuha ng papel? Di ba, when they start, baka mamaya, then DNR po, kailangan din natin kasama. So we know if there are trees that are allowable to be used for paper. Okay? With that, yes, Honorable Escudero.
I move to adjourn, Mr. Chair.
There's a motion to adjourn by the Honorable Escudero, duly seconded by the Honorable QT Delmar. Is there any objection? Chair, hearing none, this meeting is now adjourned. Salamat sa lahat. Thank you.
Sa muli, maraming salamat sa inyong panonood at pakikinig. Once again, El Maestro. See you on my next vlog. Bye-bye!
1, 2